All right, we're gonna keep going here. So we did some ivory tower stuff, went over some concepts, made sure that they were ingrained in our brain. So we will move forward more. What's the next thing we're gonna do? I haven't really sat down and drawn this out in any real way, so I think that the next logical step in my head is to basically make it so that the functionality we have put into the character creation screen, or the karma, the functionality we have put into the character creation screen relative to the available karma, is something that we should duplicate on the actual karma screen once you're in game. So let's move towards that. So we'll open up our table, open up the game. And we will maybe try and get rid of that a little bit. We'll minimize it, bring it back up. There we go. In my head, this could either be really easy or a real pain in the ass. So it could go either way. But also in my head right now, I'm also thinking to myself that there's a problem we're going to have to deal with, which I'm not going to go over right now. But there's going to, if this all goes real fast and smooth and we bang this out in like 10 minutes, then there's going to come there's going to be a subtle bug that would not readily be obvious, but in my head, because I have some limited amount of experience with this stuff, I will point it out anyway, and we will fix it and deal with it, and talk about why it exists and whatnot, and it'll harken back to a theme that we've highlighted a little bit thus far, which is manage code. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to spend a point, we're going to remove a point, just to make sure the routines we are interested in and the values are in memory. So we'll do that. Now we're going to do 31, 31. Thank you, Bueller. Now, because we are extending the functionality of our script into, but we've been focused strictly on the available karma and character creation screen. So we found the value. We could go what writes to this address or whatever, or we could enable the script and we could um, pretty much deal with this value however we want. But because we are extending it out into the realm of the actual game itself, as we saw in way back in the series, that there's actually two values here, and god damn, what's with that tooltip? One of them, seriously, one of them, really? Thank you. One of them, the OD782C90, is for the available karma during character creation, and then the second one down here is the karma value of the player as soon as we actually start the game and we load it up. So we have to keep these values in sync, because if we're gonna start messing with them and whatnot, then we just it behooves us to keep them in sync. You could say I don't care about this value and delete it, and then just start messing around with this one and trying to figure that stuff out, but it's just easier to sort of go through the program flow in a logical way, to what the application, or to what the game developers wanted you to do, is what I would say. So we're going to make that one 100, and then we're going to make this one 100 as well. Then we'll hit plus, we'll hit minus. They're both 100, we'll hit plus. They should be both 96. They are. All right. So how are we going to do this? It is really fairly simple, or at least it could be. If you have we have a decent background in this by now. So what we're going to do is we could right click on this first one, the OD782C90. This is the one for character creation. So we're going to start, because we're dealing with multiple values, we'll just do that. CC character creation. We'll say in game. I don't know, we capitalized one, so we should capitalize the other. In game. So what we will do from here is we will right click on this and say find out what writes to this address. Now surely you are saying to yourself, we are not in game, so how the hell can we find the value? It doesn't matter, because it matters, but basically, as we have shown before, that there's two different addresses with two different values, and the game is modifying these two different addresses with two different routines, or four different routines as the case may be. And in a previous video, if I recall correctly, we had actually right-clicked on them both and said, find out what writes to this address. Let's do that. We'll just make it a little bigger so that they match to some extent. So let's hit plus, let's hit minus. You can see again, there's the address of the instruction that's modifying the 2C90 value is 12FBF079, and then the decrease value is 12FBFBC2. These two, the instructions for this value or for modifying this value or this value as the case may be, is not the same as what is over here. So we have a script that will overwrite or inject upon these two addresses and clobber these two instructions with all sorts of logic. There's no real logic right now, but we'll clobber these two things with logic as we have defined it. And then when you come over here, the 1ECAB168 value, this is represents the actual karma value in game. So what you should be saying to yourself right now is, if we launch the game actually and fire it up and whatnot, and we start modifying karma values, we have not injected upon these 2 points right here. So the game will simply just execute these two instructions. So you can basically say to yourself, OD782C90, that's during character creation. We already have that one nailed down, so I don't really care what that is. We're just going to get rid of it and say forget about it. So what we are interested in, however, is the 1ECAB168. So let's go to show assembler. So what are we doing here? What we are doing here is we are repeating the process that we have gone through we are repeating the process that we went through to find the available karma and to find the instructions that accessed available karma. And now we're going to work on digging out a byte string or a series of bytes or a byte array or whatever that is unique to this address right here. So we already went to new scan, so we will go to array of byte. We will get rid of whatever is there. We will copy to clipboard bytes only of the address we are actually interested in, and then we will add the next one for good measure. And let's see what we get. We get one. That is some pretty lucky nonsense. Repeat the scan a couple times. I've noticed that when I repeat the scan and I'm actually talking, the video sort of cuts out. That's probably a result of Cam Studio and priorities, thread priority and stuff like that. But I'm not really going to worry about it. So we could extend this byte string out a little bit, but the problem is that the next one we run into is has a hard-coded memory address. We could add EB onto it, but I like to operate in sort of discrete units. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do that. What are we doing? We talked about wildcards. This is only a 2-byte instruction right here, so what we're doing is essentially we're just skipping it. And then we will go down to the next one, which is 8D6D00. We didn't even have to do this really because we're only getting one result with this. And if you wanted to leave it at that, that's more than fine. But I generally like to. Is there a minimum length for a good AOB scan? There is no official minimum length, but I just like to make it a certain. Generally, I will try to fill this up at least once. Without. For example, you could keep going, and it'll just start padding it. Like you'll just, as you can see, it's going away over on the left side here because we're way out there. But I generally try and at least get close to filling up this box. We are not going to, but we are just going to add in the next instruction. So we will do that. Let's make sure it's working. We're still getting one result, which is fine. So we're just going to cut that, call it short. So what are we going to do here? We're going to have to do some modifications because we are spending a point during character creation, and then we're spending a point in game. So let me think about this. I'm somewhat pedantic about how I name stuff. So let's say spend point. Do we want to say during CC? No, we're just going to call it CC. So what are we doing? We're going to end up creating new AOB scans, new entry points, new processing points, new return points, stuff like that. And we just want a way to differentiate it because you can't use the same name twice for obvious reasons. Yeah, it's somewhat tedious, but such is life. You're dealing with assembly language and you're writing assembly code and you're dealing with bits and bytes and stuff like that. So you know what, tedious, it's the nature of the beast. And if this, if this kind of stuff bothers you, then you probably have quit watching a long time ago. That's what I would say. So I hit OK just to do a basic sanity check to make sure I had nailed all the points. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start a new AOB scan. For AOB, spend point IG for in-game is what we're going to call it. That's our byte string. Spend point in game. Do we want to get into the decreased? No, we're just going to bolt it on one section at a time. So we'll go to label, entry, spend point, IG. If you're into Dota 2, maybe IG means something to you, maybe it doesn't. I'm not really into Dota 2 or Dota in general, but I did watch the International. I thought it was a pretty awesome thing. The Dendy Pudge I thought was pretty. Was it cheap as shit? It was absolutely cheap as shit, but it was still funny to watch. And the way the announcer went crazy when the guy was landing hooks left and right, and it was like, oh, the hook and yada yada yada. I don't know. I thought it was awesome. It's like WWE wrestling. So we will go to process, spend point IG. Logic goes here. We'll come down here. We'll add a new process. You can see again, we structured this. This is why I structured my scripts in this way, because it's logical. You can just bolt on whatever the hell you want. So we will go to jump, return, spend point IG. We're going to make up a new injection point down here. So AOB spend point IG. We're not doing any fancy math. Inject, spend point IG. Jump, entry, spend point in game. Do we need the NOP there? I don't know. We'll have to go back and do a little bit of math and figure it out, and we will. But for now, I'm just going to put the NOP there. Return, spend, point, IG, or colon. What is the original code? Inject, spend, point, IG. It is move EAX plus A0 ECX. How do I know that? Because I'm just looking up here. This is the original code right here, as indicated by this right here. When you hit plus, we'll just go in to back to the game real quick. Hit plus. You can see the count here went up to 2, so this is the plus instruction. We've only hit -1, so this is the minus or the remove point, as the case may be. What is the address? 12FBF17B. What is that? 12FBF17B. What's the instruction? It is this, which is exactly what we just typed right here, except we stripped out the leading zeros. So that's all good, well and good, and we will unregister the symbol because we are good housekeepers, just like anyone should be. You wouldn't know it by looking at my room or my house, but whatever, I digress. So let's just go over this. We have AOB spend point IG, inject spend point IG, IG. I'll drink a little beer while we go over this. Spend point, remove, return, process, spend IG, jump to process, and then we have the process, and then we have some code that we will put in there. What we are going to do is we are going to do exactly what we do in character creation. So we are going to move 64 into EAX. Can we do that? Yeah, no, because okay, so let's just, why can't we do that? Because if you go up here to the original instruction, you can either look here or you could scroll down in the script and see what we pasted in right here. It's not moving EAX into this register. It's moving ECX into EAX plus A0. So if we want to sort of follow the same structure that we had up here, what we have to do is move some value into ECX, and then the game will take ECX and stuff it in the available karma for the character. So we'll just go back and change it from EAX to ECX, and we'll put 64 in hex is 100. Generally, when I'm doing this, I would do something like that. What is this? This is 15, and then it's 100. Just because when you're, I don't know, when it gets real complicated and you're pushing huge values and tons of numbers around, it's easy to get confused. So what was it? It was EAX A0 ECX. Is that right? EAX A0 ECX. Yep, that's right. All right. So now when we go in game and we actually go to the karma screen and we spend a point, if our injection and our AOB scan and everything is right, then we will get 100. But I don't like that. I don't want that. I want it to be different than that. Now that I'm thinking about it, so what are we going to do? We're going to make it 75. We're going to convert that to hex. It is 4B. So we are going to do that because I don't want to get into a realm of where, oh well, I could get confused because we're going to see results in the game based on what we're doing with assembly here, obviously, as we've demonstrated with, without any doubt. I don't want to get into a scenario where, maybe I'm accidentally running this routine or something instead of this routine. So I'm going to make these values completely distinct. So, all right, about 16 minutes. On a side note, I did like a 30-minute video last time. It took like a fucking hour and a half to upload and process that thing through YouTube. So, I mean, is it nice that I don't have to do 15-minute videos and chop it all up in crazy ways? Sure, it's real nice. But recording these things in huge blocks, I mean, I might as well go take a shit and a nap because it takes a long time to upload this stuff. And certainly to process it. Cam Studio is it's not the fastest thing in the world. So anyway, we go in the game, we hit increase point. What should we get? We should get 75. And then let's see, we have EAX0, ECX. We're doing that. We're returning spend point IG, spend point IG, inject spend point IG. We're jumping to entry spend point, which is way the hell up here. And then we're doing the NOP, and then the return spend point IG, and then we're unregistering the symbol. Are we even registering it? We did do that. All right. So the last thing we have to do is we have to make sure that this is the right amount of instructions. Memory addresses on my architecture or in general are 4 bytes. So that's 4 bytes because this is a memory address. So we have 4 bytes, jumps a 1 byte instruction. That's 5. What are we injecting at? We are injecting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it needs to be 6 bytes. So we have to throw the NOP in there. So we talked about this a little bit about how there's an implicit assumption on the part of the applications, programs, OSs, and processors, and whatever the hell you want to say about the length of instructions, especially once you when you do code injection, is what I would say. You have to make sure that the code that you are injecting has the exact same byte length as the code that you are injecting upon, or the application is going to basically go out to lunch. So, do you have to say, how do I know what this length is and how do I know what jump is? Do I have to look up an x86 booklet? You do not. In the event that you don't want to do any of this crap, what you can do for shorthand is you can just basically select the instruction you want to inject upon, go to tools, go to auto assemble, just like we did when we made when we started our script. You go to template code injection, make sure the address lines up, hit OK, and Cheat Engine does some black magic behind the scenes, and it basically says, okay, well, here's how many NOPs you have to do. New mem is an address, so there's never going to be any difference between the length of the address in new mem relative to the length of the address in your script. So Cheat Engine is telling you, hey, I've done the math, and you have to jump, and then you have to NOP, and that's it. And so great. So we're going to jump, and then we're going to NOP, and then profit. So let's hit OK. Cheat Engine does its basic sanity check, and we should be able to we should be able to confirm at this point and then go into the game and then click plus on the karma screen and we should see 75. So let's enable a script and see what happens. Can we enable it? Does the AOB scan? It does. It has a hit. So let's hit plus, we get 100. We hit minus, we get 15. We'll hit plus a couple times, we get 100. We'll hit minus a couple times, we get 15. Let's confirm it and confirm it. And we will name our guy, what is some crazy fictional character whose name I have not used in this series yet? Let me drink a little bit and I will think. I will drink and think. Don't drink and think, people. I used Mephistopheles. That's kind of my go-to stupid name. So I don't know. We'll just name him Thor. Because that was probably the worst movie and probably the worst video game in the history of movies and video games. I never actually saw the movie, but I watched the Angry Joe review of Thor, the video game. And if you don't know who Angry Joe is, you should definitely go out and check him out on YouTube. So we have 131 karma. I don't, whatever. We have some value. Let's go to spend karma. Now, again, we'll go back to the script here and think if we have it enabled, it is still enabled. If everything is functioning properly, we will hit plus, and it doesn't matter what the arithmetic that's going on is. This will just be 75. It is not. It is 100. That's disappointing. Let's disable the script. Let's re-enable the script. Yeah, well, really? Maybe I've been making a big deal out of this whole thing the whole time, and so maybe there's just two different. Let me think about this here. There's two different values, so the game is storing two different values during character creation. One for available karma, one for player karma, but they are both modified by the same routines. That's not entirely unheard of. That's not outside the realm of possibility. So let's disable the script, and we will hit plus, and we will hit minus. What is this? It is 4 and 15. Let's hit plus. It is 5. Let's hit plus again. It is 6. So are we overwriting that instruction? We should be. Spend point in game. What is this? It's 898880000000. That is what that is. So it's AOB scanning for that, it's AOB scanning for that, and then it's AOB scanning for that. It's coming down here and says spend that. 4B is in fact 75. ECX 80. Let's try it one more time. Maybe I just screwed up, made some obvious mistake. We get 15, we get 100. That is interesting. So let's do that. Let's make sure we're at the right address. 12FBF17B. 12FBF17B. It says, yep, that's where we are. I wonder why it is. Well, there's an easy way to figure it out. Oh, well, that's interesting. That is 75, but that is not 75. Let's confirm. Let's see what we get there. Aha. Now, how interesting is that? All right. Let's re-enable the script. Let's open up the PDA. Let's go to the karma menu. Let's go to spend karma. Let's click plus. It says 100. Still says 100. Still says 100. We must have 100 karma. I bet we do not. Let's hit confirm. And what it's going to do is it's going to show 75. Okay. All right. That's very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen. So here is some how long have I been rambling on? All right, we got a little bit of time. I don't want to go much above 30 minutes because it just gets crazy, and if YouTube uploads or my computer ever craps out saving this video, then I got to go back and redo 30 minutes of video, and that's a fucking nightmare. Dropping the F-bombs. But anyway, so what are we seeing here? What we are seeing here is that during character creation and during the karma screen, for some reason the game is really separating out. Obviously there's a value for the interface, and then obviously there's a value for the actual player, but nothing, and that's it. So are we crapping on 90 videos worth of stuff? Sort of, yeah. We were always able to control the value in a way that made sense. And then in earlier videos, we were messing around with it. And when they got desynced, and then we would go into start a new game. This second one would. It's not this second one, but when we first launched up or loaded up the game, and then we would find two values. One of them was the interface value, and the other one was the actual value itself. But there's no way to back out of a new character screen, because every time you go back into a new character creation screen, or just every time you go back into character creation, it's going to reset the new karma value. So there was no way for us to really we could have deduced it if I didn't have my head up my ass, but basically there was no real way to figure that kind of crap out. Now that we're actually launching up into the, or now that we're actually going into the game and we're messing around with some of the assembly stuff, it's more readily apparent that what's going on here is that some of the routines we have written are modifying the display value, and then some of the routines we have written are modifying the actual value of our karma. And because we have basically split it up into two different, character creation and then in game, that's not actually right. We were wrong. We should have said something like display or something. We will just type that for now. We're gonna end up deleting all this crap, but we will not end up deleting all this crap because there is some discrepancy between character creation and in game. But basically, these two routines right here are for display values, and then the stuff that we're writing now is for the actual values of in-game karma. So, and again, you can see that by clicking plus, and there's, oh well, I have 100 karma. Let's just click plus a whole bunch of times, see if we can chew up 100 karma, or 75 as the case may be. You can't, because even though it says 100, you're actually it's pushing 75 into that value the whole time. It's just that the other routines, the first routines that we wrote, are overwriting the display value. So you can see right there, we still have 75. It's fairly cut and dry. I'm gonna chop this off right here, and we'll come back and dive back into this in the next video. So let's close that. Let's close that. Close that. Close that. Close that. I'm not gonna close this because I don't want to have to rewrite all that crap.